Hello, wanderers of history's quiet corners. Picture yourself clutching a cigarette stub, its bitter smoke curling like a ghost in the dim, shattered heart of Berlin, April 30th, 1945, where each trembling breath tastes of ash and the city's pulse falters under Soviet shells. You're a Wehrmacht Grenadier, scarred from Stalingrad's icy claws and Italy's sun-bleached ridges, driven not by grand ideals, but by a fragile vision of home. A rustic German farm, your wife's soft hum, your daughter's giggle chasing the wind. As the Red Army's roar swallows the streets, time frays into fragments of gunfire and fading hope. If these haunting World War II stories soothe your restless nights, weaving lessons through whispers, please like and subscribe. Tell me your city and the hour you're joining us. So, flick on a fan, let the lights fade, and sink into your pillow. We're slipping into a world of crumbling stone and silent dreams, where history's truth hums through a soldier's weary heart, guiding you gently toward rest. You huddle in the dim underbelly of Berlin, where the air hangs thick as forgotten regret, laced with the musty breath of crumbling stone and the faint, acrid whisper of cheap tobacco. The basement beneath this old post office feels like a tomb carved from the city's dying flesh, its walls scarred by cracks that spider outward like veins in a weary heart. Flickering oil lamps cast elongated shadows, turning every corner into a half-formed spectre, while the distant thud of Soviet artillery pulses through the earth, a relentless rhythm, like the labored breathing of a world on its last gasp. Yet, in this suffocating hush, you barely stir, your fingers absently threading a frayed bootlace, the tremble in your hands a silent testament to days without proper food, nights without true sleep. At 25, you are no stranger to this dance with death. Enlisted in 1941, you've clawed through Stalingrad's frozen moor, where men froze into statues mid-scream, and Italy's jagged spines, where the sun baked blood into the soil like an indifferent artist. Survival wasn't born of heroism, but of raw instinct, the quiet pact you made with the shadows, fighting not for flags or Führers, but for the man gasping beside you in the trench, and for that fragile mirage of home. A small farm in rural Germany calls to you in these moments, its fields golden under a kinder sky, your wife's gentle hands weaving bread dough, your daughter's laughter scattering like wildflowers in the wind. That dream clings now, a threadbare shield against the void, reminding you that endurance isn't just muscle and bone, but the stubborn spark that whispers of tomorrow's worth grasping. Outside these walls, Berlin in April 1945 sprawls as a colossal ruin, encircled by over 2 million Soviet troops, whose advance has turned boulevards into battlegrounds and homes into hollowed shells. The Red Army's barrage never truly pauses. It ebbs and flows like a tide eroding the shore, pounding the city with shells that carve craters deep as graves. Civilians huddle in cellars much like this one, their eyes hollow from hunger, while the Wehrmacht's ranks swell with desperate conscripts, elderly Volkssturm volunteers clutching ancient rifles, and wide-eyed Hitlerjugend boys barely old enough to shave, thrust into the fray with propaganda-fueled fury. You know the truth in your bones. Supplies dwindle to whispers. Ammunition crates echo empty when kicked, and the once mighty defences fracture under the weight of inevitability. Yet, here in this subterranean limbo, you persist, a testament to the quiet fortitude that history often overlooks, the unyielding will to outlast one more dawn, a lesson etched in the scars of those who came before, urging you to value the fragile peace of later eras. Your Kar 98K rests against the wall, its barrel cool and unyielding, a faithful companion that's whispered death across continents, from the snow-choked streets of the east to the olive groves of the south. Now, it waits like an old friend who's seen too much, its wood scarred by the same hands that once held a plough. You light one of the cigarettes you bartered for, traded a crumpled photo of your family, edges worn soft from endless fingering, and inhale deeply, the smoke coiling upward in lazy spirals, a fleeting warmth against the chill seeping through the concrete. The taste is bitter, like regret distilled, but it steadies your nerves, drawing you back from the abyss of what-ifs. Across the room, a rat scurries boldly, dragging a crumb of stale bread in its jaws, oblivious to the hierarchies that bind you. You watch it vanish into a crack, a wry thought flickering. At least it feasts without waiting for orders, thriving in this underworld, where men like you ration breaths. The others in this makeshift refuge mirror your exhaustion, their faces etched with lines that belie their years. One man, older, with a Volkssturm armband fraying at the edges, mutters about the miracle weapons promised in faded posters, his voice a gravelly murmur that fades into the damp. You don't respond. You've heard such tales before, in frozen foxholes where hope froze solid alongside the dead. Instead, you focus on the lace, knotting it tight, as if securing this one small thing might anchor you against the storm brewing above. The artillery's cadence shifts subtly, growing insistent, like a predator circling closer, and you feel the collective pulse quicken, though no one speaks of it. In these pauses, history presses in, a silent witness to the folly of empires, where the grand strategies of leaders dissolve into the grit under your nails, teaching that resilience blooms not from victory, but from the sheer defiant act of enduring. As the bombardment swells, rattling loose pebbles from the ceiling, you rise slowly, joints protesting like rusted hinges. The basement's confines press closer, a cocoon of concrete that shields yet imprisons, amplifying every drip from unseen leaks, every muffled groan from the wounded in the corner. You sling the rifle over your shoulder, its weight a familiar burden, and peer toward the stairs leading up to the fractured world beyond. Berlin wasn't always this, a city of laughter and lights now reduced to a labyrinth of despair, its spires toppled, its spirit fractured. Yet, in your quiet reflection, there's a subtle irony. How the mighty fall, empires crumbling like sandcastles under a child's careless foot, while the simple dream of home persists, unbowed. You exhale another plume of smoke, watching it dissipate, and wonder if today's shadows will ever yield to light, a pondering that bridges eras, reminding those who listen now of the preciousness of ordinary dawns. The air grows heavier, pregnant with anticipation, as footsteps echo from above, perhaps a runner with orders, or just another echo of the chaos. You straighten, the bootlace secure at last, and feel the pull of destiny, that inexorable current dragging you forward. In this moment, suspended between breaths, you embody the untold stories of countless souls caught in history's grind. Ordinary men thrust into extraordinary horrors, their fortitude a quiet beacon across time. The rat emerges again, undisturbed, nibbling its prize in the corner, and you almost envy its ignorance, its freedom from the chains of duty and dream. But envy fades. You are here, woven into this tapestry of ruin, and as the artillery's lull breaks into crescendo, you ready yourself, knowing that survival's true art lies in embracing the storm, one shadowed step at a time. Feldwebel's voice cuts through the haze, urgent yet resigned, pulling you from reverie. But for now, in this fleeting stasis, you hold on to the image of home, a sanctuary untouched by shells, where laughter drowns out thunder. It's a fragile armor, yet unbreakable, a reminder that amid devastation, the human spirit clings to what endures. Love, memory, the unyielding march toward tomorrow. As the basement trembles once more, you draw a final drag from the cigarette, its glow fading like a dying star, and prepare to face whatever descends those stairs next. History, after all, is not just dates and battles, but these intimate pulses, the quiet battles within, where despair meets defiance, and from their clash, resilience is born anew. Hans fiddles with his harmonica again, lips pursed against the battered reed, coaxing out a melody that stumbles like a drunkard in the dark. The notes rise tentatively, evoking some half-remembered folk tune from quieter days, but they falter midway, dissolving into awkward silence. He chuckles softly, a sound more like a sigh, and the few men around him offer strained smiles, their faces illuminated by the lamp's feeble glow. You watch from your corner, the soup's thin warmth still lingering in your stomach, a meager anchor against the gnawing void within. In this subterranean hush, such moments feel like fragile bridges over an abyss, linking the remnants of who you were to the shadows you've become, reminding you that even in collapse, the human spark flickers on, defiant and dim. Yet, as the artillery's distant grumble seeps through the walls like an uninvited guest, conversation turns inevitably to the whispers that keep despair at bay. One man, a gaunt figure with Volksturm patches sewn haphazardly on his sleeve, leans forward, his voice a conspiratorial rasp. "Dinah's coming," he insists, eyes gleaming with borrowed conviction. His panzers will smash through from the north, turn those Ivans back like a bad dream. The words hang there, heavy as unmet promises, and you feel the room's collective breath hold, as if speaking them aloud might summon the miracle. Feldwebel grunts, stirring the embers of his cigarette with a callous thumb, his gaze fixed on some invisible point beyond the concrete. He's seen too many dawns break over broken lines to indulge such fantasies, yet he doesn't contradict, perhaps because silence is kinder, or because hope, however threadbare, is the last ration worth sharing. You shift slightly, the cold floor pressing against your spine like an old wound reopening, and let your mind wander to her, your daughter, small and vibrant in memory's light, chasing fireflies across the evening grass back home. Her laughter echoes in your thoughts, pure and unscarred, a counterpoint to the harmonica's aborted strains. But reality intrudes, sharp as shrapnel. The soup pot sits nearly empty now, its contents doled out in careful measures, each spoonful a calculation of endurance. The air carries the faint metallic tang of fear, mingled with the soup's watery ghost, and you wonder how long such illusions can sustain a man. History whispers its truths here, in the scarcity that grips Berlin like a vice. The vaunted Wunderwaffe, those mythical weapons touted in radio broadcasts and crumbling leaflets, remain phantoms, inventions born of desperation to mask the Reich's unraveling seams. Steiner's counterattack, promised with fervent broadcasts, fizzles into nothing. A ghost army marching only in the minds of the deluded, leaving defenders like you to scrape by on rumours and resolve. Feldwebel finally speaks, his voice low and measured, like a river carving stone over the years. "Kursk was the same," he murmurs, exhaling smoke that curls upward in lazy defiance. "We waited for the breakthrough, tanks gleaming under the sun. But the Reds came like a flood, endless and unforgiving." His words paint the scene vividly. The vast steppes alive with steel beasts clashing, men reduced to cogs in a grinding machine, where valor meant little against sheer numbers. You nod silently, the memory of your own battles surfacing like submerged wreckage. Stalingrad's white hell, where frost claimed more lives than bullets, and Italy's sun-scorched hills, where every advance cost fragments of soul. In those crucibles, you learn that survival hinges not on grand designs, but on the minutiae, the steady hand, the shared glance, the unspoken bond that turns strangers into brothers amid the storm. Yet, as the group falls into contemplative quiet, punctuated only by the artillery's muffled cadence, a wry undercurrent threads through your reflections. Hans pockets his harmonica with a theatrical sigh, muttering, "If Steiner doesn't show, I'll mail this thing north, let it lead the charge." The jest lands softly, drawing chuckles that echo hollowly off the walls, a brief spark of levity born from the absurdity of it all. You almost smile, imagining the instrument's reedy wail scattering foes like autumn leaves, but the humour sours quickly, revealing the chasm beneath, how empires built on iron and ideology now cling to such fragile reeds. It's a quiet irony, this penchant for mockery in the face of oblivion, a shield forged from despair that lets you breathe a moment longer, honouring the absurd resilience that history often buries beneath tales of glory. The conversation drifts onward, weaving through tales of near misses and lost comrades, each story a tapestry of what-ifs and almosts. One young recruit, his Hitlerjugend uniform ill-fitting like a child's costume in a tragic play, clings to the Wunderwaffe myth with fervent eyes, reciting propaganda lines as if they were scripture. Rockets that split the sky, tanks that breathe fire, they'll come, he asserts, his voice cracking slightly under the weight of his own doubt. You listen without judgment, recalling your own early days when such words fueled the fire within before the grind of fronts eroded them to dust. Feldwebel counters gently, his tone paternal yet resigned. Weapons win battles, boy, but wars are lost in the waiting. His wisdom hangs there, a subtle bridge to eras beyond, where the lessons of endurance echo in quieter lives, urging gratitude for conflicts resolved without such intimate tolls. As the lamp's flame guttered low, casting erratic dances across the faces around you, you feel the weight of inevitability settles like a shroud. The artillery swells again, a harbinger drawing nearer, and the room's fragile camaraderie frays at the edges. You dip a spoon into the remnants of soup, savouring its faint warmth. Each swallows a small act of defiance against the encroaching void. In these lulls, history reveals its deeper currents. The Wunderwaffe, born from Goebbels' fevered broadcasts, served only to prolong the agony, while Steiner's phantom forces evaporated like morning mist, leaving Berlin's defenders to improvise amid chaos. The city's command structure, once rigid as iron, now splinters under pressure, with orders delayed or contradicted, mirroring the broader collapse of a regime built on illusions. You ponder this silently, the soup's blandness a metaphor for hopes diluted to nothing. Yet in that very blandness lies a truth worth cherishing, the unadorned strength to persist, a quiet valor that outlives empires. Hans retrieves his harmonica once more, attempting the tune anew, but it breaks off sooner this time, the notes unraveling like a poorly knit scarf. The group falls silent, each man retreating into his own labyrinth of thoughts, where personal dreams clash against the inexorable tide. You close your eyes briefly, summoning the image of your farm once more, the soil rich and yielding under your fingers, a world where battles are waged only against weeds and weather. It's a sanctuary untouched by shells, a reminder that survival's essence transcends uniforms and fronts, rooting instead in the simple, enduring threads of connection. Yet, as the basement trembles with another salvo, you sense the shift, the illusions cracking wider, exposing the raw bone beneath. Feldwebel's gaze meets yours, a shared understanding passing unspoken. Whatever comes next, it's not the miracles promised, but the grit to face the dawn, a lesson etched across time for those who listen now, in safer nights. The air grows thicker, anticipation coiling like smoke, and you straighten, ready for whatever fractures the quiet next. In this suspended breath, the fragments of hope scatter like ash, revealing not weakness but the profound strength in acknowledging their fragility. A subtle grace that history bestows on the overlooked, honoring the quiet battles fought in shadows, where despair meets determination, and from their union, something unbreakable emerges. You exhale slowly, the harmonica's echo fading, and brace for the inevitable pull forward, knowing that in every era's tumult lies the seed of reflection, urging a deeper appreciation for the peace that follows. The shells fall closer now, each impact a muffled thunder that vibrates through the walls like the earth's own weary sigh. Yet you remain still, your body attuned to the rhythm, as if it were merely the patter of rain on a distant roof. Fatigue wraps around you like an old coat, heavy and familiar, dulling the edges of alarm that once would have jolted you upright. Instead, you sit with your back to the cold stone, fingers tracing the bolts of your Car 98K, counting the cartridges in the clip. 10 left, each one a slender promise of defiance, slim as a beggar's hope in winter's grasp. The metal clicks softly under your touch, a mechanical whisper in the dimness, grounding you amid the growing storm above. As the barrage intensifies, you wonder how the human frame adapts so readily to such a symphony of destruction, bending without breaking, a quiet marvel that echoes through the ages, where endurance becomes the unsung verse in history's brutal ballad. Feldwebel breaks the silence first, his voice emerging low and steady, carving through the haze like a knife through fog. He speaks of Kursk, that vast clash of steel and will in the summer of 43, where the steppes stretched endlessly under a merciless sun, and tanks prowled like ancient beasts awakened from slumber. "We held the line at first," he murmurs, his eyes distant, as if gazing across those bloodied fields anew. Waves of them crashing against us, but our panthers roared back, spitting fire until the horizon burned. You listen, the words painting vivid strokes, the acrid bloom of cordite, the ground shuddering under caterpillar tracks, men reduced to silhouettes amid the dust and flame. His tale unfolds methodically, like unfolding a well-worn map, detailing the ebb and flow of advances, the sudden reversals when Soviet reserves poured in, inexorable as a river in flood. There's no glory in his recounting, only the flat acceptance of a craftsman describing a flawed tool, highlighting how strategy unraveled into survival's raw scramble. Yet, as he speaks, your thoughts drift unbidden to her. Your daughter, small and unscarred in memory's embrace, her tiny form darting across the farmyard grass, arms outstretched toward some imagined wonder. The image blooms vivid against the basement's gloom, her laughter a counter-melody to the artillery's dirge, pure and unbound by the chains that tether you here. How distant that world feels now, separated not just by miles, but by the chasm of war's relentless forge, where innocence withers under the same sun that once nurtured it. Feldwebel's voice fades momentarily, and you catch yourself pondering the irony. In Kursk's cauldron, men fought for vast ideologies, Yet here, in Berlin's crumbling heart, the battle shrinks to personal horizons. The next breath, the faint echo of home. It's a subtle twist, this narrowing of purpose, reminding how conflicts across time strip away illusions, leaving only the core resilience that binds past to present, a thread of fortitude worth cherishing in quieter days. The barrage swells again, a crescendo that rattles loose mortar from the ceiling, dusting your shoulders like untimely snow. You rise slowly, the movement deliberate, as if defying the weight pressing down from above. The air thickens with the scent of damp earth and lingering smoke, seeping through cracks like insidious fingers, while the faint, acrid bite of unwashed bodies mingles in the confined space. Outside these walls, the Red Army's artillery orchestrates Berlin's demise with mechanical precision. Batteries of Katyushas and heavy howitzers unleashing salvos that carve the skyline anew, reducing grand avenues to jagged scars. History records this as the Battle of Berlin's climax, where over 1 million shells rained upon the city in those final weeks, shattering not just stone, but the illusions of invincibility that once cloaked the Reich. The Volkssturm and Hitlerjugend, thrown into the fray with scant training and scarcer supplies, embody that desperate calculus. Elderly guardians and youthful zealots alike. Their mismatched uniforms a patchwork testament to a regime's final gasp. You pace the narrow confines, boots scraping softly against the grit-strewn floor, each step a measured defiance against the encroaching numbness. Feldwebel continues, his narrative weaving through the turning point at Kursk, the Soviet counter-offensive that broke the German spine. T-34s swarming like locusts over the plains, their sloped armor shrugging off hits that would fell lesser foes. We retreated then too, he admits, a hint of wry resignation curling his lip, leaving the field to the crows and the victors. The image lingers, crows wheeling over silent hulks of machinery, a feast amid desolation, and you can't help but draw the parallel to now. Berlin streets soon to host similar banquets, where the living envy the indifferent dead. It's a mordant fancy, born of too many nights like this, where humour emerges from the absurd, like finding a theatre marquee amid the rubble promising eternal triumphs, its letters half erased by flame, as if even propaganda tires of the charade. As the shells draw nearer, their impacts resonating deeper, you feel the basement's pulse quicken, the subtle shift in breathing, the tightened grips on weapons. Your mind returns to her again, imagining her small hands clutching a doll, oblivious to the tempests raging far beyond the farm's hedged borders. That innocence, preserved in your heart's quiet vault, stands as a beacon against the encroaching dark, a reminder that wars may ravage landscapes but cannot wholly extinguish the inner light that guides survival. Feldwebel's tale concludes on a subdued note, the battle's outcome a foregone echo of what's unfolding above. The Wehrmacht's might blunted, retreats turning to routs, the grand offensive that was to reclaim the East dissolving into defensive scraps. In Berlin, this pattern repeats on a microcosmic scale. The city's defences, hastily erected barricades of trams and rubble, crumbling under the Soviet onslaught, where every block contested becomes a microcosm of the larger downfall. The air grows heavier still, laden with anticipation's invisible fog, and you halt your pacing, leaning against the wall to absorb its chill solidity. Sweat beads on your brow despite the damp cold, a testament to the inner fire that refuses to be quenched. History's lens sharpens here, revealing the inexorable tide. The Red Army, fueled by years of endured horrors, from Leningrad's siege to Kursk's crucible, advances with a vengeance tempered by their own scars, their tank and infantry pressing relentlessly toward the Reichstag's shattered dome. You contemplate the vast machinery of it all, how individual threads weave into destiny's tapestry, each soldier a stitch in a pattern beyond comprehension. It's a humbling vista, bridging eras, where the fortitude displayed in such moments underscores the value of peace, the hard-won knowledge that survival's true victory lies not in conquest, but in the quiet aftermath, where wounds heal and dreams rebuild. Feldwebel lights another cigarette. The matches flare a brief sun in the gloom, and exhale slowly, the smoke weaving patterns that mimic the chaos above. You join him in the ritual, the tobacco's harsh bite a grounding sting, pulling you back from abstraction's edge. The artillery's lullaby persists, its verses growing bolder, each explosion a punctuation in the city's elegy. In this interlude, you sense the undercurrent of fate's pull, the way wars distill men to their essence, stripping away pretense to reveal the raw core of perseverance. Your thoughts circle back to home, that sanctuary where such symphonies are unknown, and gratitude swells subtly for the contrast, a silent nod to the resilience that history imparts, urging those in calmer times to honor the echoes of such nights. As the bombardment crests once more, shaking the foundation with renewed vigor, you ready yourself inwardly, the Kar-98K's weight a constant companion. The room's atmosphere thickens, charged with unspoken resolve, and in this suspended breath, the Kam-Chu, the stoic acceptance, settles like dusk, a mantle worn not from defeat, but from the profound understanding that endurance is the ultimate rebellion against oblivion. You draw a deep breath, the air tasting of inevitability, and brace for the chapter's turn, knowing that in every era's shadow lies the light of lessons learned, a quiet tribute to those who walked before, their footsteps guiding the way toward dawn's fragile promise. The door bursts open with a splintering crack, and Feldwebel staggers in, his uniform caked in a grey shroud of dust that clings like the city's final lament, his eyes wild mirrors reflecting the chaos clawing at the streets above. "Prepare," he gasps, voice ragged as torn canvas, T-34s at the end of the block, infantry swarming behind. The words slice through the basement's stagnant air, igniting a spark that surges through your veins, cold and electric, like frostbite thawing into fire. You rise without thought, the motion fluid yet burdened, as if fate itself tugs the strings, pulling you toward an inexorable edge. Your hands move of their own accord, sliding the bolt on the Kar-98K with a metallic snick that echoes sharply, chambering around. 9 left now, each a slender talisman against the encroaching void. The rifle's stock presses familiar against your palm, its wood worn smooth by countless grips, a silent companion in this dance where every step courts oblivion. Around you, the men scramble in hushed urgency, their shadows leaping grotesquely under the lamp's wavering light, transforming the room into a theatre of hurried phantoms. Boots scrape against the floor, sending up puffs of grit that swirl like fleeting spirits, while the faint clink of grenades being checked punctuates the rising tension. Feldwebel's breath comes in heaving gusts as he slumps against the wall momentarily, wiping grime from his brow, revealing streaks of pale skin beneath, like glimpses of vulnerability in a mask of resolve. You feel the adrenaline coil tighter, a serpent awakening within, sharpening senses dulled by exhaustion, the acrid tang of fear sweat mingling with the basement's perpetual damp, the distant growl of engines vibrating through your bones like an omen etched in marrow. Yet, amid this surge, a quiet irony surfaces in your mind. how the mighty machines of war, those steel behemoths named for distant rivers, now prowl your childhood streets, turning familiar corners into killing grounds, as if history delights in such cruel homecomings. You ascend the stairs first, each creak of wood underfoot a whispered countdown, the air growing thicker with the scent of charred timber and ozone from recent blasts. At the top, through a jagged hole where a window once framed the world, you peer into the haze, silhouettes of T-34s lumbering forward, their sloped hulls cutting through the smoke like predatory shadows emerging from myth, turrets swiveling with mechanical grace. Infantry darts between them, figures blurred by the fog of war, their bayonets glinting sporadically like fleeting stars in a storm-clouded sky. The street lies in tatters, cobblestones upheaved into barricades of ruin, and you spot a crumpled bicycle twisted amid the debris, its frame bent like a discarded promise of normalcy. Feldwebel joins you, his shoulder brushing yours in silent solidarity, and barks orders low. Hold until the last, make every shot count. You think, with a twist of grim amusement, whose last it truly is, yours, the tanks, or the city's itself, crumbling under its own weight like a stage set weary of the performance. The artillery's chorus swells anew, shells whistling overhead before detonating in brilliant plumes that illuminate the dusk prematurely, casting the advancing foe in stark relief. You kneel by the breach, rifle braced against the sill's splintered edge, the wood biting into your skin as you sight down the barrel. The first tank grinds closer, its tracks churning rubble into dust, and you fire, once, twice, the recoil jarring your frame like fate's insistent nudge. Sparks fly from the hull, harmless against its armored hide, but a figure beside it stumbles, vanishing into the murk. Satisfaction flickers briefly, a spark in the gathering dark, yet it's tempered by the knowledge that this is but a droplet against the tide. History unfolds here in real time. The Battle of Berlin reaching its fevered peak on this fateful day, April 30th, 1945. As the Red Army's inexorable push nears Potsdamer Platz, their forces, battle-hardened from years of defending their homeland, now exacting retribution with calculated fury, block by bloody block. Adrenaline sharpens everything, the metallic tang on your tongue from biting your lip, the sting of sweat in your eyes, the way the air hums with impending violence, charged as before a storm's release. Feldwebel shouts encouragement, his voice a gravelly anchor amid the swirl, directing fire toward the infantry weaving through cover. Ruined storefronts and toppled lampposts that once lit evening strolls. You reload swiftly, fingers numb yet precise, the clip sliding home with a satisfying click, and fire again, the report echoing off the walls like a defiant echo. A soldier falls in the distance, but more surge forward, their shouts in Russian a foreign litany that blends with the engine's roar, creating a cacophony that drowns out thought. In this frenzy, you glimpse the absurdity, how the grand architecture of empires reduces to these frantic exchanges where lives pivot on split-second aims. A poignant reminder across epochs that true valor lies not in conquest's roar, but in the steadfast grip on one's humanity amid the maelstrom. The tank halts momentarily, its cannon traversing with ominous slowness, and you duck as a shell screams past, exploding against a nearby facade in a shower of masonry that rains down like judgment from above. Dust billows, choking the air, and you cough, tasting the city's pulverized essence, brick and mortar ground fine as forgotten dreams. Feldwebel pulls you back, his grip firm on your arm, and you retreat down the stairs, the basement's relative sanctuary beckoning like a reluctant embrace. Yet, even in withdrawal, resolve hardens. You know this is no rout but a measured step, preserving strength for the inevitable next clash. The Red Army's advance on this day marks the Reichsneder, their troops, drawn from diverse corners of the Soviet expanse, fueled by memories of invaded homes and lost kin, pressing toward the symbolic heart, where the Reichstag awaits as a final prize, its capture sealing a narrative of retribution long in the making. Back in the dim refuge, breaths come quick and shallow, the group reassembling with hurried efficiency, checking wounds, redistributing scant ammo, faces set in masks of grim determination. You wipe grime from your rifle's sight, the metal warm from use, and feel the pull of destiny's current strengthening, drawing you inexorably onward. Feldwebel's eyes meet yours again, a silent pact renewed, acknowledging the futility yet embracing the fight, for in such moments, purpose distills to its essence, not victory's illusion, but the unyielding stand against erasure. You think of the farm once more, its peaceful rhythms a stark counter to this urban inferno, and gratitude stirs for the contrast. How the trials of yesteryear illuminate the preciousness of stability, where conflicts resolve without such visceral cost. A subtle homage to the fortitude that bridges generations. The order has arrived, shattering the fragile veil of waiting, and as the artillery's lullaby morphs into a furious requiem, you ascend once more, rifle at the ready. The street beckons through the haze, a canvas of impending strife, and you step forward, heart steady amid the turmoil, embodying the timeless truth that in the face of overwhelming tides, the human spirit's quiet defiance becomes its most profound legacy. The shells fall thicker now, the T-34's shadow lengthening like fate's own hand, and you brace, knowing that survival's art lies in navigating the storm's eye, where despair and determination entwine, forging something enduring from the wreckage. The world narrows to the rifle's sights, your eye pressed against the cold metal as shadows flicker through the veil of smoke, and without a flicker of malice, you squeeze the trigger. Once, then again. The recoil a sharp jolt that ripples through your frame like fate's abrupt nudge. No hatred fuels the motion. It's pure instinct, honed in forgotten fields where survival scripted every breath, turning you into a vessel for reflexes that think faster than the mind dares. The car 98K bucks, spitting lead into the haze, and a distant figure crumples, vanishing amid the rubble like a puppet cut from its strings. Yet, as the echo fades, swallowed by the roar of engines and shouts in a tongue that twists like barbed wire, you feel no triumph, only the hollow rhythm of necessity, a dance where each step preserves the fragile thread of existence, reminding how, in quieter times, such mechanisms lie dormant, waiting for crises that test the soul's unyielding core. Hans fires beside you, his shots wilder, driven by a raw urgency that mirrors the city's fracturing pulse. But in an instant, he jerks backward, a crimson bloom spreading across his chest like ink on parchment. His cry pierces the din, a guttural gasp that cuts deeper than any shell, and you lunge without pause, grasping his collar to drag him behind a toppled column, its surface pitted like an ancient relic bearing war's indifferent scars. His breath comes in wet rasps, eyes wide with the shock of betrayal by his own body, and you press a hand to the wound, feeling the warm seep between your fingers, sticky as unspoken regrets. "Hold on," you mutter, though the words taste futile, like promises whispered to a receding tide. Time compresses here, seconds stretching into eternities where grief is a luxury deferred. You snatch his ammo pouch instead, fingers deft amid the slickness, reloading as the T-34's turret swings lazily toward your position, its cannon a gaping maw promising oblivion. Bullets whine past, chipping stone into stinging fragments that pepper your skin like accusing rain, and you fire back blindly into the murk. The rifles report a defiant bark against the encroaching symphony. The street unfolds as a chaotic canvas, painted in bursts of flame and shadow. Soviet infantry darting from cover to cover, their forms blurred by the acrid fog that clings like a shroud, while the tank grinds forward, crushing debris under treads that groan like the earth's reluctant confession. You spot one soldier fall, clutching his leg as comrades drag him away, and a fleeting thought surfaces. Today he's earned an eternal furlough, spared from this endless parade of folly. The notion curls wryly in your mind, a spark of absurdity amid the grim tableau, underscoring how war reduces grand narratives to these intimate absurdities, where lives pivot on whims of leaden luck, a lesson etched across epochs that urges appreciation for eras where such lotteries are confined to memory's pages. Adrenaline surges now, a cold river flooding your limbs, sharpening the world into crystalline edges, the metallic bite of gunpowder on your tongue, the sting of sweat carving trails through the grime on your face, the way the air hums with latent violence, charged as a storm about to break. You roll to a new cover, a shattered doorway that once welcomed patrons to some forgotten shop, its sign dangling crookedly like a punchline to an unfinished joke. From here, you sight another advance, figures weaving through the ruins, their bayonets fixed like accusations, and fire methodically, each pull of the trigger a measured exhale, conserving the dwindling arsenal that separates breath from silence. The tank belches fire, its shell exploding nearby in a gout of earth and flame that showers you with debris, the heat a fleeting kiss against your skin, reminding you how fragility underpins every bold stance, a subtle bridge to calmer days where peril is abstract, not etched in flesh. In this maelstrom, history presses close, its breath hot and unyielding. The Battle of Berlin has devolved into a visceral melee of street-to-street savagery, where the Wehrmacht's remnants, outnumbered 10-1 by the Red Army's vengeful legions, cling to barricades fashioned from the city's own bones. The Soviets, scarred by invasions that ravaged their lands from Moscow to the Volga, fight with a ferocity born of retribution, their T-34s, sloped armoured workhorses that turned the tide at Kursk, now prowling Berlin's veins, supported by infantry hardened in the crucibles of Leningrad and Stalingrad. You know this not from dispatches but from the raw immediacy, the way their advances methodically dismantle defences, house by house, where improvised barricades of furniture and vehicles offer scant resistance against the onslaught. It's a grim arithmetic, this erosion of lines, where each fallen comrade thins the ranks further, echoing through time as a cautionary verse on the costs of hubris, honouring the unyielding spirit that persists even as empires dissolve into dust. You glance back at Hans, his form still now, eyes staring blankly at the ceiling's cracks as if deciphering some celestial map of escape. No time to mourn. You strip the last grenade from his belt, its pin a cold assurance in your palm, and hurl it toward the approaching shadows. The blast blooms bright, a momentary sun that scatters figures and buys precious seconds, the shockwave rippling through you like a shared tremor with the earth. Smoke billows thicker, a merciful veil that obscures and confounds, and you retreat deeper into the building's gutted interior, footsteps echoing hollowly off walls stripped bare. The irony strikes again. This structure, once a bastion of commerce or culture, is now a fleeting fortress in a game where the house always wins, reducing human endeavour to transient shelters against inevitable storms. a reflection that stirs quiet gratitude for ages where such transience is confined to tales. The chaos envelops fully now, shouts and gunfire weaving a tapestry of discord that drowns coherent thought, leaving only the primal pulse. Move, aim, survive. Another shell detonates outside, its force buckling a wall and sending plaster cascading like dry rain, and you cough amid the dust, tasting the city's pulverized essence on your lips. Feldwebel's voice cuts through sporadically, directing what remains of the group, his commands terse anchors in the swirl. You fire from a new vantage, the rifles kick a rhythmic affirmation, each shot a small rebellion against erasure. The Soviets press on, their resilience a mirror to your own, forged in similar fires, driven by mirrored pains. And in that symmetry lies a profound unspoken kinship, where foes embody the same unyielding will that history celebrates in victors and laments in the vanquished, urging a deeper empathy for the shared human forge. As the T-34's shadow looms larger, its engine a guttural hymn to mechanical might, you feel the tide turning, the defense fracturing like glass under pressure. Bullets zip past, one grazing your sleeve in a hot whisper that draws blood, but no pause. You bind it hastily with a torn strip from your cuff, the pain a distant hum amid the roar. In these fragments of frenzy, the essence distills. War as a great leveler, stripping pretense to reveal the core tenacity that binds eras, where the lessons of such nights illuminate the value of peace. The hard-earned wisdom that survival's grace lies in outlasting the tempest, not taming it. You reload once more, the clip's emptiness a stark omen, and brace for the next wave, knowing that in this whirlwind, reflex alone sustains, a quiet ode to the indomitable spark that flickers on, even as darkness encroaches. The air thickens with cordite's bite, vision blurring at the edges from strain, and you spot a gap, a narrow alley promising fleeting respite. You dash toward it, the ground quaking under another blast that hurls you forward, tumbling into cover amid shards of brick. Breath ragged, you rise, rifle clutched like a lifeline, and glance back at the fray, comrades falling, shadows advancing, the T-34 inexorable as time itself. A fleeting notion surfaces. Perhaps this beast of steel dreams of quieter pastures too, its crew yearning for homes as you do yours, and the whimsy softens the edge, a momentary balm amid the bedlam. History's wheel turns here. The Red Army's push on Potsdamer Platz, sealing Berlin's fate. Their advance a culmination of endured atrocities, where each meter gained echoes the reversals at Kursk and beyond, a narrative of retribution that underscores the cyclical nature of conflict, honoring the resilience that persists through its cycles. You press on. The alleys confines a brief sanctuary, heart pounding in sync with the distant guns. The chaos swirls unabated, a vortex pulling all into its maw, and in its grasp, you embody the timeless struggle, the soldier as both victim and vessel of destiny's flow, where the raw pulse of survival becomes the truest measure of spirit. As shouts echo closer, you ready once more, the rifle an extension of will, knowing that in such tempests, the quiet fortitude to endure speaks louder than any victory's fanfare, a subtle thread linking past's shadows to present's light. The order has ignited the storm, and now, immersed in its heart, you navigate the whirlwind, reflex your compass in the disarray. The commands shatter like brittle porcelain under the weight of chaos. One moment Feldwebel's bellow grounding you to the line. Stand firm, hold fast. The next, a frantic murmur snakes through the haze, urging a scramble towards some ghostly station lost in the city's fractured veins. You pause for a heartbeat, breath caught in the thickening fog of confusion, before the surge of bodies sweeps you forward, boots hammering pavements slick with ash and uncertainty. Your senses sharpen in the tumult, the stinging reek of cordite burning your throat, blending with the coppery tang of blood bitten from your lip, while fragmented shouts in German collide with the Soviet barrage's relentless drone. No officer lingers to untangle the orders. He's vanished into the smoke, perhaps felled by a stray bullet, or consumed by the city's ravenous jaws, leaving you to navigate this sudden abyss where structure dissolves into the primal pulse of survival. You dash through streets carved into jagged wounds, the world a kaleidoscope of crumbling facades and flames that flicker like dying stars against a bruised sky. From hidden cellars, faint cries rise, civilians huddled in darkness, their pleas a haunting undertone to the boots pounding overhead, trapped in history's merciless churn. Rubble shift beneath you, treacherous as a liar's promise, and you vault a fallen beam, its charred husk crumbling underfoot like trust betrayed by time. A wry thought flickers. These streets, once named for poets and emperors, now mock their legacy, reduced to gauntlets where survival scorns grandeur. A subtle jab at the vanity of empires that echoes across ages, where lofty designs crumble to dust, leaving only the steadfast to forge paths through the ruins. Feldwebel emerges from the gloom ahead, his silhouette frantic as he waves toward a shadowed alley cloaked in twilight's shroud, his face a canvas of soot and strain, eyes darting like those of a hunted beast. "To the station, fall back," he roars, voice splintering against the din. But even as you pivot, a rival command cuts through from behind, some unseen sergeant clinging to the earlier decree. No retreat, hold the line. The clash of directives hangs absurd, a tangled snare in the thread of authority, pulling men in opposing currents like marionettes jerked by unseen whims. You choose motion over hesitation, plunging into the alley's narrow embrace, its walls pressing close like judgmental whispers, the scent of scorched paper from a gutted bookstore drifting through, knowledge turned to ash, a poignant symbol of reason's fragility amid chaos's surge. In this fractured allegiance, you glimpse the broader collapse, chains of command snapping under pressure, where once rigid discipline unravels into solitary gambles, a timeless truth that celebrates the lone navigator's resolve over blind loyalty. The group splinters further, some veering toward illusory refuge, others doubling back in disarray, their forms fading into the haze like spirits reclaiming their realm. You stay close to Feldwebel, his bulk a steady anchor in the swirl, as explosions bloom nearby, hurling shrapnel that shrieks past like vengeful ghosts. A child's sob pierces from a basement grate, sharp and unanswered, tugging at buried tenderness. Innocence ensnared in the folly of the mighty, their cries a stark counterpoint to the growl of advancing steel. You leap a barricade of overturned carts, their wheels spinning uselessly like futile protests, and land hard, knee jarring against stone, pain flaring then dulling to a persistent ache. Amid the scramble, a sign catches your eye, half buried in debris. "Welcome to Berlin," its letters warped by flame, prompting a bitter musing. Perhaps it should read "Farewell," a sardonic nod to the illusions that once draped the city in false glory. Smoke thickens into a choking veil, blinding and bewildering, turning comrades into phantoms and foes into omnipresent shadows. You cough, throat raw as scraped leather, and press forward, the alley spilling into a plaza scarred by craters, desolate as a forsaken moon. Feldwebel's voice cuts through, now reduced to guttural urges. Keep moving, don't bunch up. Yet the earlier contradiction lingers. a fracture that shatters unity, men peeling away in twos and threes, drawn by opposing tides toward survival's elusive shore. This unraveling mirrors the larger tapestry. Berlin's command structure lies in ruins, officers vanished or overwhelmed, leaving scattered units to improvise amid the Red Army's tightening grip. Where self-preservation trumps strategy, a pattern woven through conflicts past and future, exalting the adaptive spirit that thrives when hierarchies crumble. A shell bursts overhead, showering sparks that dance like malevolent fireflies, and you dive behind a toppled statue, some forgotten dignitary, his bronze gaze eternally vacant, surveying the bedlam with impassive irony. The blast's aftershock rings in your ears, a high whine that drowns the shouts, leaving you adrift in sensory haze, heart pounding a solitary rhythm against ribs. Feldwebel hauls you up, his grip iron, and you run anew. The plaza's expanse a gauntlet under sporadic fire, bullets pinging off stone like impatient rain. In this frenzy, thoughts of home intrude, a fleeting vision of your wife's steady hands mending a fence, a mundane act now sacred against this urban inferno, stirring quiet gratitude for eras where order holds without question, where the chaos of fractured commands is confined to history's annals rather than lived in flesh. The remnants of your group converge at the plaza's edge, breaths heaving in ragged unison, a fractured chorus against the symphony of ruin. Feldwebel scans the horizon, face etched with lines mapping unseen burdens, and mutters a new directive. South to the bridge, link with reserves. Doubt creeps through the ranks, whispers questioning the path, the reserve's existence a wager on fading charts. You push on regardless, the street ahead a corridor of flame-lit desolation, where lampposts droop like wilted stems, and shopfronts gape empty, their contents looted or incinerated. A stray dog darts past, scrawny and frantic, scavenging amid the wreckage, its survival a mocking mirror to your own. Unbound by orders, driven by raw instinct, prompting a wry inward nod at nature's impartiality, where beasts and men navigate ruin's maze with equal desperation. As night tightens its grip, the conflicting orders echo in your steps, each turn a decision born of ambiguity, the city's labyrinth coiling like a serpent devouring its own tail. Smoke obscures the stars, turning the sky into a blank slate where hopes once painted now dissolve into shadow. You glance back, the plaza fading into obscurity, comrades' forms blurring into anonymity, and feel isolation settle like dusk's chill. History records this disintegration vividly. In Berlin's final throes, units fractured under assault's weight, self-directed retreats becoming the norm as centralized control evaporated. A microcosm of empire's decline that underscores the enduring value of adaptability, where rigid structures yield to fluid resolve. A lesson resonating through time's corridors, honoring the unscripted paths that lead to unforeseen dawns. The bridge looms ahead, its arches broken yet defiant, a skeletal relic against the fire's glow. Feldwebel halts, signaling caution, but the air pulses with approaching peril, engines rumbling closer, footsteps multiplying in the dark. You ready your rifle. The bolts click a punctuation in the narrative's unfolding, knowing that in this web of cross directives, survival hinges on the improvised, the intuitive leap beyond decree. The fractured orders have sown discord, scattering seeds of doubt that bloom into solitary struggles. Yet in their midst lies a profound affirmation, the human capacity to forge ahead amid ambiguity, a quiet tribute to the fortitude that bridges chasms of uncertainty, turning chaos into the crucible of unbreakable will. The night presses on, the bridge a threshold to unknown trials, and you cross, unbowed, the clash of mandates fading into the relentless march forward. A fervent whisper cuts through the retreating line like a blade through fog, carried by a Hitlerjugend boy, his eyes alight with a feverish glow that seems to defy the city's crumbling pulse. The Führer endures. He'll lead us to crush them yet, he cries, his voice a taut wire, trembling with conviction as he clutches a tattered propaganda leaflet like a sacred relic. You glance at him, his two large uniforms sagging on a frame untested by time, and feel a pang of pity, his zeal a fragile flame flickering against the wind of inevitability. The street stretches ahead, a jagged scar of upturned cobblestones and smouldering debris, and you navigate it with care, each step sinking into ash-softened earth, the air thick with the sour tang of burnt cloth and the faint, metallic aftertaste of dread. Above, the sky churns orange, stained by fires that consume without mercy, as if Berlin itself exhales its final ragged breaths. Before the boy's words can settle, another voice erupts. A grizzled soldier, face streaked with blood and grime, his laughter jagged, spilling from a throat raw with despair. It's over. He shot himself in that bunker, blew his own head off. The words strike like a shell, halting the ragged column mid-stride, and you freeze. The rifle's weight suddenly oppressive, as if it absorbs the shock of this unverified claim. No runner confirms it. No radio crackles with clarity. Only the rumor's venom spreading like ink in water, fueled by exhaustion and the relentless advance of shadows beyond the haze. Your breath catches, sharp with the bite of smoke, and the world tilts, the ground unsteady beneath you, as if the city itself reels from the news, its foundations crumbling under the weight of a myth undone. The group stumbles forward, but the rumor clings, burrowing into thoughts frayed by fatigue, its echoes louder than the distant artillery that punctuates the night like a metronome of doom. You weave through a plaza littered with shattered glass, glinting like fallen stars under the firelight, and ponder the absurdity. A leader once deemed immortal, now whispered to have chosen a private exit, leaving his followers to grapple with a void where purpose once stood. It's a grim jest, this unraveling of legend, as if history delights in staging such betrayals, reducing titans to mere mortals in a blink, their grand designs scattered like the leaflets littering the street. You spot one underfoot, its bold print promising victory, and think, at least this paper hero outlasts its maker. A wry reflection that surfaces unbidden, a nod to the folly that binds eras, where empire's boasts dissolve into lessons of humility cherished in quieter times. Faces around you mirror the fracture, men exchanging glances heavy with doubt, their eyes hollowed by sleepless nights and the weight of betrayal. The boy falters, his earlier fire dimming to a flicker, lips moving soundlessly, as if reciting a prayer that no longer answers, while the laughing soldier's mirth curdles into a grimace, his gaze lost in the middle distance, chasing ghosts of meaning. You press on, the ground slick with spilled fuel and rain, each step a negotiation with treachery, the rifle strap chafing your shoulder like a reminder of burdens borne without choice. In this moment, history presses close. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler's suicide in the Führerbunker, alongside Eva Braun, sends shockwaves through Berlin's defenders. The news a contagion that shatters morale, unraveling the Wehrmacht's cohesion as units splinter into desperate pockets, their purpose eroded by the absence of the figure who once anchored their cause. The plaza opens into a narrower street, its buildings leaning inward like conspirators whispering doom, their empty windows staring blankly at your passage. The rumor evolves, gaining flesh with each retelling. Pistol to the temple, cyanide for her, bodies burned to cheat the Reds, a straggler mutters, his breath pluming in the chill, adding to the myth's weight. The details, whether true or embroidered, carve deeper into the collective psyche, eroding the last threads of belief that held the line. You pause briefly, leaning against a lamppost bent like a question mark, its light extinguished, and feel the city's pulse falter, its streets a graveyard of ideals, where statues of forgotten heroes gaze impassively at the chaos, as if even stone grows weary of witnessing such collapse. The irony twists in your thoughts. A regime built on unyielding will undone by its own architect's surrender. A silent commentary on the fragility of power that resonates through time, urging gratitude for eras where such fractures are studied, not endured. Feldwebel rallies the group with a low, urgent call, his voice a frayed tether in the storm, but his words lack conviction, drowned by the rumor's undertow that pulls resolve apart like wet paper. You march on, the street a corridor of desolation where shopfronts gape like open wounds, their contents looted or incinerated, and a child's shoe lies abandoned, its laces frayed as if echoing the unraveling around you. Thoughts of home intrude, a fleeting image of your daughter chasing butterflies across a meadow, her laughter a melody untouched by this discord, and a quiet gratitude stirs for worlds where innocence prevails, where the collapse of icons is a tale told in classrooms, not lived in blood. The rumor's weight settles deeper, a stone in your chest, and you wonder if belief itself is the true casualty, its loss a heavier toll than any shell's impact. The path twists into an alley, its confines tightening like a noose, and the rumor morphs further, whispered by new voices joining from side streets, stragglers weaving into your dwindling band, their tales converging like streams into a torrent. Heard it from a signals man, one rasps, eyes darting. They torch the bodies to deny the Reds a prize. The image lingers, grotesque yet fitting, a final act of defiance turned inward, and you almost smile at the absurdity. A leader scripting his own erasure, leaving his followers to improvise the epilogue amid ruins. Yet the humour sours, laced with the sting of abandonment, and you press forward, the ground slippery with the city's spilled essence, each step a defiance against the void. History captures this moment starkly. Hitler's death, confirmed or rumoured, accelerates Berlin's fall, the Wehrmacht fracturing as morale collapses, men like you left to navigate the aftermath's uncharted waters, a testament to the enduring spark that finds purpose amid ruin. Feldwebel halts at the alley's mouth, signalling a pause, and you slump against a wall, the stones chill a fleeting balm against your fevered skin. The rumour circulates anew, each retelling a hammer blow to fading resolve. He left us nothing, no plan, no fight, a soldier mutters, voice barely audible over the artillery's drone. You gaze upward, the sky a smeared canvas of smoke and flame, and ponder the cascade. One act in a buried chamber unraveling a nation's fabric, leaving threads for survivors to reweave alone. It's a profound irony, this inversion of power, where the exalted fall silent and the overlooked must forge their own continuations. A subtle affirmation of agency amid chaos, bridging to eras where such falls are dissected with detachment, fostering appreciation for structures that endure without such dramatic ruptures. The group stirs, driven by the encroaching rumble of pursuit, and you rise, the rifles wait a constant reminder of duties unchosen. The path ahead twists uncertain, shadowed by doubt's lengthening reach, and as you step forward, the rumour's poison spreads unchecked, dissolving bonds once thought unbreakable. In this quiet dissolution lies a deeper truth. The human capacity to adapt amid betrayal's sting, turning loss into a crucible for renewed purpose, a timeless whisper that honors the unyielding spark within, guiding through the darkest hours toward unforeseen light. The collapse deepens, Berlin's pulse faltering in sync with your own, and you march on, unmoored yet resolute, carrying the weight of a world undone. Darkness envelops the city like a shroud drawn tight, turning streets into inky rivers where you plunge headlong, breath ragged as torn sails in a gale. The night a vast, swallowing entity that devours sound and sight alike. Flames lick at the edges of vision, sporadic bursts illuminating ruins in harsh relief, casting elongated shadows that dance mockingly ahead, as if leading a procession of the damned. Your legs burn with the fire of overtaxed muscle, each stride a defiance against the pull of exhaustion. The ground uneven and treacherous, strewn with remnants of lives upended, splintered wood, scattered papers fluttering like pale moths in the wind. The air carries a choking blend of charred timber and ozone, sharp inhalations that sting the lungs, while distant detonations roll like thunder from a storm that refuses to break, their echoes vibrating through your chest as if the earth itself mourns its scars. You veer into a narrower passage, the walls closing in like the jaws of some ancient beast, their surfaces pocked with fresh craters that weep dust and fragments. Footsteps pound behind, a diminishing chorus of companions whose faces blur in the gloom, their presence felt more than seen, bound by the invisible thread of shared peril. A stray round winds overhead, embedding in brick with a dull thud, and you duck instinctively, heart slamming against ribs in a rhythm that mocks any notion of control. The night amplifies every noise, the scrape of boot on stone, the faint jingle of gear, turning the ordinary into omens, where silence between blasts stretches taut, pregnant with unspoken dread. Yet, amid this flight, a fleeting image of home surfaces unbidden, the farm's lantern-lit window, a beacon of steadiness in memory's quiet harbour, contrasting this nocturnal frenzy, stirring a subtle reverence for realms where darkness yields to dawn without such frantic pursuit. The group's pace falters as rubble blocks the way, a haphazard barrier of toppled carts and shattered masonry, forcing a scramble over its jagged crest. You haul yourself up, hands scraping raw against edges sharp as accusations, and glance back to see a figure lag, then vanish into shadow, perhaps stumbled, perhaps chosen a different fork in fate's maze. No time to call out. The momentum carries you forward, the alley opening into a broader avenue lined with skeletal trees, their branches clawing at the sky like fingers grasping for lost salvation. Gunfire chatters from a side street, sporadic and desperate, a reminder that the Red Army's net tightens, their patrols weaving through the urban web with predatory patience. You think of those hunters, driven by their own ghosts of invasion and loss, and sense the symmetry. Foes mirrored in endurance, chasing and chased in a cycle that history spins without mercy, a pattern that underscores the shared humanity beneath uniforms, urging empathy for the weary on all sides. A comrade mutters curses under his breath, tripping over a discarded helmet that rolls away with a hollow clank, its empty interior a void staring back like an accusation of abandonment. You steady him, grip firm on his arm, feeling the tremor of fatigue that mirrors your own, and push on, the avenue curving toward a bridge silhouetted against the fiery horizon. The structure looms fractured, its spans sagging under bombardment's toll, yet it stands as a reluctant gateway, promising passage if not safety. Explosions flare brighter now, illuminating snatches of the scene. A lone bicycle leaning against a wall, wheels spinning idly as if in mockery of your haste, its motion a futile whirl in the face of standstill doom. The sight prompts a bitter inward curl. At least it goes in circles without complaint, unlike men bound to linear paths of peril. A fleeting musing that lightens the load for a breath, highlighting the absurd resilience that buoys the spirit amid descent. The night deepens, stars obscured by a canopy of smoke that hangs low, turning the sky into an oppressive lid, sealing in the turmoil below. Your vision adjusts to the dimness, picking out details in shades of grey. A mural on a wall, half effaced, depicting heroic figures now pocked with bullet holes, their poses frozen in eternal charge toward nothingness. The irony lingers, these painted warriors outlasting their flesh and blood counterparts, immune to the fear that gnaws at your edges. You cross a small square, its fountain dry and cracked, water long evaporated like the illusions that once sustained morale, and hear the faint wail of wind through shattered panes, a mournful tune that harmonizes with the artillery's sporadic crescendos. In this symphony of decay, history unfolds its pages. Berlin's defenses, by late April 1945, fragment into isolated holds, the Wehrmacht's once cohesive force splintering as deserters slip away under cover of night. Driven by the realization that surrender might preserve what battle cannot, a shift that echoes through conflicts where resolve bends to reason's quiet call. You vault a low wall into a courtyard, the group thinning further as stragglers peel off into side paths, their choices silent bids for alternate fates. Feldwebel leads with grim determination, his silhouette a beacon in the murk, but even he falters momentarily, pausing to catch wind that carries hints of distant screams. The courtyard's enclosure offers brief respite, its overgrown hedges whispering against your passage like forgotten secrets, and you lean against a stone bench, chest heaving, the cool surface a fleeting anchor against the fever of flight. Thoughts drift to simpler nights, home's hearth glowing soft, stories shared under starlit roofs, and gratitude swells for worlds where evasion is a game, not a grim necessity, where the lessons of such pursuits illuminate the value of security forged from past's hard-won insights. The pursuit's rumble grows, engines throbbing like a predator's heartbeat closing in, and you move again, slipping through a gate that creaks in protest, its hinges rusted as if weary of parting ways. The path narrows into a warren of back streets, labyrinthine and disorienting, where every turn feels like a gamble with destiny's dice. A dog barks from afar, sharp and accusatory, then falls silent, perhaps sensing the futility of alarm in a world already alerted to its end. You nearly trip over a discarded pack, its contents spilled. Letters yellowed and unread, a photograph curling at the edges, and write yourself. The sight a poignant punctuation. Lives reduced to litter, dreams discarded in haste, prompting a silent observation on how war turns treasures to trash. A wry acknowledgement that survival strips all to essentials, leaving sentiment as luxury for safer dawns. The group dwindles to a handful, breaths sinking in laboured harmony, as you emerge onto a broader thoroughfare shadowed by gutted warehouses, their frames skeletal against the blaze. Feldwebel's pace slows, his form bending under invisible strain, and he mutters directions laced with doubt, the earlier certainty eroded by the night's relentless erosion. You follow, the rifle a constant companion, its barrel cooling in the chill that seeps through your tunic. A reminder of tools turned burdensome in flight's embrace. The Red Army's presence looms, not seen but felt, their scouts probing like fingers in the dark, testing defenses that no longer hold. In this evasion, history reveals its underbelly. Many Wehrmacht soldiers, facing encirclement, chose solitary paths, melting into the populace or courting capture. Their decisions a mosaic of pragmatism over principle, a narrative that salutes the instinct to preserve life when glory fades, bridging to times where such choices are pondered with hindsight's grace. A flare arcs overhead, bathing the street in harsh white, exposing your flight for a heartbeat before darkness reclaims its throne. You dive into cover, heart thundering, the light's betrayal a stark illumination of vulnerability. Lying prone amid refuse, you catch your breath, the ground cold and unyielding, and reflect on the night's caprice. One moment veiled mercy, the next merciless reveal, much like the whims that govern fates in turmoil. The flare fades, and you rise, the group pressing on with renewed urgency, the bridge drawing nearer as a silhouette of tenuous hope. In this nocturnal odyssey, the essence crystallizes. Flight as a testament to adaptability, where the pursued forged strength from shadows, a quiet ode to the perseverance that history embeds in its folds, urging recognition of the profound in the prosaic, the valor in mere continuation. The air grows colder, wind whipping through gaps in the urban carcass, carrying whispers of rain that patters lightly, mingling with the distant cacophony. You traverse a final stretch, the bridge's outline sharpening, its structure a defiant arch against oblivion's pull. Feldwebel signals halt at its base, ears straining for pursuit's telltale signs, but the night holds its secrets close, offering only the soft rush of water below, indifferent to the dramas above. You pause, rifle ready, and let the moment sink in, the flight's toll etched in every ache, yet yielding a subtle triumph. Another span crossed, another dawn beckoned. The collapse of order has birthed this solitary forge, where desperation hones the spirit's edge, a timeless whisper that celebrates the unquenchable drive to endure, linking shadowed pasts to illuminated presents where such trials are tales, not truths. You hunker behind a jagged heap of shattered stone and twisted iron, once the proud front of a bakery where warmth and laughter spilled freely, now a frail rampart trembling under the weight of war's relentless tread. The steel leviathan looms closer, its engine's guttural snarl weaving into your pulse, a mechanical dirge that vibrates through the earth like Berlin's final lament. Your Car 98K presses against the debris' rough edge, its barrel still hot from earlier volleys, and you peer through the sights, the world narrowing to a tunnel of smoke and shadow where foes flicker like ghosts in a fading dream. You fire, once, twice, the recoil a sharp jolt that anchors you to this moment, sparks flaring uselessly off the armored beast's hide, a fleeting rebellion against an unyielding tide. The air chokes with the acrid scent of charred wood and molten metal, each breath a gritty reminder of a city unmade, its once vibrant corners now staging grounds for survival's grim ballet. Figures emerge through the haze, Soviet infantry weaving with lethal grace, their silhouettes darting between rubble piles, rifles glinting with intent under the fire-streaked dusk. Your fingers, steady despite the ache in your grazed arm, reload the rifle with a metallic click, chambering rounds that feel like dwindling prayers. 6 left, each a slender defiance against the encroaching dark. You aim and fire, the report echoing off shattered walls like a lone voice in an abandoned choir, and watch a shadow stumble, vanishing into the debris as if the earth itself claims its toll. Yet others press forward, their advance a relentless current, eroding the fragile hold of this corner with the patience of a river carving stone. A quiet thought surfaces. This iron predator, prowling streets meant for trams and pedestrians, seems almost comically out of place. Like a giant crashing a child's game, it's might absurd against such intimate ruins. A wry musing that softens the dread for a breath, echoing the absurd resilience that threads through history's darkest hours, where humour blooms in desperation's cracks. The rolling fortress pauses, its turrets swivelling with deliberate menace, and you flatten yourself as its cannon roars, the shell tearing into a nearby building with a blast that hurls fragments skyward, a cascade of brick and plaster raining like shattered promises. The shockwave presses you down, ears ringing with a high-pitched wail that muffles the chaos, leaving only the steady thump of your heart, a solitary rhythm defying oblivion. Dust coats your face, gritty as unspoken regrets, and you blink it away, rising to fire again. The rifles kick a familiar pulse that reaffirms existence amid collapse. The Soviets advance, their shouts a clipped cadence in a tongue that feels both alien and intimate, forged in the same crucibles of loss that shaped your own endurance. From Stalingrad's frozen hell to this urban pyre, in their relentless push, you glimpse a mirrored tenacity, a shared human spark that history honours in both victor and vanquished. A subtle bridge to calmer eras where such struggles are tales, not torments, fostering gratitude for peace's quiet embrace. The corners' confines tighten, walls leaning in like silent judges, their surfaces scarred with bullet marks that narrate prior stands, each dent a chapter in a story of fleeting defiance. You shift to a new vantage, a doorway's skeletal frame offering scant cover, its threshold strewn with glass that crunches underfoot like brittle hopes. Another shell detonates, closer now, the blast's heat washing over you, singeing exposed skin and igniting a nearby pile of debris that flares briefly, a transient beacon in the gloom. Your breath comes in sharp gasps, lungs protesting the tainted air, while sweat carves paths through the grime on your cheeks, cooling in the evening's descent. Feldwebel's voice, hoarse and distant, calls retreat, but his form is lost in the thickening smoke, a fading beacon of resolve swallowed by the tide. The corner, once a crossroads of daily life, vendors, laughter, routine, now stands as a final bastion, its surrender a microcosm of broader yields, where personal holds crumble under collective waves, a timeless truth that exalts the spirit's capacity to endure beyond fixed points. You fire again. The rifles report a solitary cry against the Soviet juggernaut's advance, its treads grinding stone into dust with indifferent might. The infantry closes in, their movements synchronized, honed in battles that scarred their homeland's vast steppes, now claiming Berlin's arteries with surgical precision. History unfolds in this moment. The Red Army's relentless push toward Potsdamer Platz and the Reichstag marks the Reich's collapse. Their forces, battle-hardened by years of endured invasions, overwhelming defenders who cling to dwindling enclaves, their resistance a patchwork of desperation and dwindling munitions. You hurl your last grenade, its arc a desperate plea slicing the twilight, exploding in a flash that scatters foes momentarily, the shockwave a fleeting reprieve that buys seconds to flee. The smoke thickens, a merciful shroud, and you bolt through the doorway, rolling into the building's gutted interior, where shadows embrace like reluctant kin, offering no safety but a pause to catch breath. The interior is a husk, walls stripped bare, moonlight filtering through breaches in ghostly shafts that illuminate dust motes, swirling like indifferent witnesses. You navigate the debris, footsteps muffled, the rifle clutched close as a lifeline. its weight a reminder of duties unchosen yet inescapable. Outside, the Iron Beast's engine revs anew, a basso profundo that underscores the infantry's clipped commands, their advance a tightening noose around this last hold. You pause at a shattered window, peering out to see the corner overrun. Figures securing the ground with methodical sweeps, their efficiency a testament to trials endured. From Kursk's colossal clashes to this urban endgame, a fleeting fancy crosses your mind. Perhaps this mechanical titan, built for open plains, chafes at these cramped alleys, its dominance a clumsy jest in such confined ruin. A thought that flickers briefly, a nod to war's absurd mismatches, where scale betrays intent, echoing through history as a reminder of vulnerability's universal thread. You slip deeper into the structure, finding a stairwell that creaks underfoot, each step a gamble toward higher ground or deeper peril. The air cools, carrying the faint scent of mildew and forgotten lives, and you ascend, heart pounding in sync with the distant barrage. From an upper vantage, the street below unfolds in stark panorama. The armored shadow stationary now, infantry fanning out, claiming the corner with the inevitability of tide over shore. The sight crystallizes the broader yield. Berlin's defenses, fragmented and outmatched, seed ground block by block, the Wehrmacht's hold unraveling as the Red Army's momentum, fueled by retribution's fire, surges toward the capital's heart. In this surrender, a deeper truth emerges. The spirit's capacity to persist beyond lost ground, turning retreat into a prelude for renewal, a timeless whisper that honors the unquenchable drive to outlast, linking shadowed stands to illuminated reflections where such losses are pondered with detachment's grace. The pursuit's rumble grows, voices echoing closer, and you descend a back stair, slipping into an alley that yawns dark and uninviting, its confines a labyrinth of uncertainty. The corner fades behind, a lost outpost in a city unmoored, yet its fall carries a subtle affirmation, endurance forged in such crucibles, where every step defies erasure, a quiet ode to the resilience that history embeds in its folds, urging recognition of the profound in the fleeting. You move on, the rifle's weight a constant companion, the night a cloak of fleeting mercy, guiding you toward an uncertain dawn where survival's quiet art persists. You stumble into a shadowed courtyard, its cobblestones cracked like the face of a weary god, and find them there, a ragged clutch of survivors, their silhouettes hunched against the skeletal remains of a fountain that weeps dry dust instead of water. The night wraps them in its heavy cloak, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and the faint, sour tang of unwashed bodies, a silent testament to days unmoored from routine. These men, strangers bound by the frayed thread of shared ruin, are the last echoes of units dissolved in Berlin's collapse, their uniforms a patchwork of Wehrmacht grey and Volkssturm scraps, each tear and stain a chapter in an unwritten elegy. You lower your rifle, its barrel cooling like a spent ember, and join their circle, drawn by the primal need for company in a city that devours solitude as greedily as it swallows hope. One man, his face lined with the weight of uncounted winters, breaks a crust of stale bread with deliberate care, dividing it into uneven shards that he passes around, the act a ritual of defiance against scarcity's grip. You accept a piece, its texture rough as regret against your tongue, and chew slowly, savoring the faint, earthy bite that grounds you in this fleeting pause. No one speaks of the chaos left behind, the iron beast's prowling streets, the shouts that pierce the dusk. Yet the absence of words carries its own weight, a silent agreement to let the city's dirge hum in the background. where artillery murmurs like a distant storm biding its time. A younger soldier, barely past boyhood, adjusts a bandage on his wrist, the cloth stained dark, and you catch his eyes. Hollow, yet clinging to a spark that refuses to gutter, a mirror to the resilience that history quietly exalts, a spark that binds eras where survival's art outshines the clamour of lost causes. The courtyard stillness feels fragile, a bubble suspended in the night's relentless churn, and you settle against a low wall, the stone's chill seeping through your tunic like a whispered reprimand for lingering. A faint breeze carries the acrid hint of distant fires, mingling with the musty scent of ivy clinging to the fountain's base, its tendrils curling like fingers grasping for something lost. The older man speaks first, voice low and gravelly, recounting a memory of Hamburg's docks, gulls wheeling over sunlit waves, a life untouched by this urban pyre. You nod, your own thoughts drifting to the farm's golden fields, where your daughter's laughter once danced free, unburdened by the weight of shells and shattered oaths. The contrast stirs a quiet reverence for realms where memory remains unscarred, where the trials of this night are confined to tales, not lived truths, fostering gratitude that softens the heart's edges against despair's grind. Another soldier, his insignia faded to a ghost of rank, offers a tin of sardines, the metal dented but unbreached, a small miracle in this wasteland of want. You share the oily slivers, fingers trembling from cold and fatigue, each bite a fleeting anchor to the physical, a reminder that survival hinges on such modest victories. The group's silence deepens, punctuated only by the soft clink of the tin against stone. Yet in this pause, history's undercurrents surface. By April 30th, 1945, Berlin's defenders are a fractured mosaic. The Wehrmacht's cohesion eroded as soldiers, some deserters, some clinging to duty, form fleeting alliances in courtyards like this, their unity born not of orders but of shared necessity. The Red Army's advance, relentless as a tide, sweeps through the capital, leaving only these scattered remnants to navigate the aftermath. Their stories a testament to the unyielding will that history honors in the overlooked, a will that bridges to times where solidarity is choice, not survival's demand. A faint chuckle breaks the quiet, the older man gesturing to the sardine tin with a wry twist of his lips. If we lose, I'll apply to fish for the Reds. They seem to have better rations. The jest lands softly, drawing muted laughs that echo off the walls like ripples in a still pool. A momentary balm against the weight of absence. No officers, no plans, only this motley band holding court in a city that no longer claims them. The humour, born from the brink, carries a subtle edge, a nod to the absurdity of scavenging for meaning amid ruin, where sustenance becomes a currency more precious than medals. You swallow the last of the fish, its salt lingering like a memory of seas never seen, and feel the group's shared pulse, a fragile rhythm that binds you to these strangers, their faces etched with the same unspoken question. What next, when all paths lead to surrender or shadow? The courtyard's walls loom higher in the dimness, their cracks tracing patterns like fate's indecipherable script, and you shift, the rifle's strap chafing your shoulder, a reminder of burdens carried without choice. The younger soldier speaks now, voice barely above a whisper, of a sister in Dresden. Her letters stopped months ago, her fate a blank page in the chaos. You listen, your own heart turning to the farm, your wife's steady hands, the promise of a hearth untainted by this inferno, and feel a quiet resolve to carry that image forward, a beacon against the encroaching void. The exchange, halting and raw, weaves a thread of connection, a reminder that even in collapse, humanity clings to shared fragments, a truth that resonates across ages, where the simple act of storytelling becomes a bulwark against oblivion, fostering gratitude for eras where loss is mourned in peace, not amid fire's roar. A distant explosion jars the moment, its echo rolling through the courtyard like an impatient summons, and the group stirs, eyes scanning the darkness for signs of pursuit. The artillery's cadence grows insistent, a relentless undertone that underscores the city's unraveling, where each blast carves deeper into Berlin's fading pulse. You rise, joints protesting like rusted hinges, and check the rifle. 5 rounds left, a dwindling talisman against the inevitable. The older man pockets the tin, its emptiness a silent commentary on their shared state, and you move toward the courtyard's edge, the path ahead obscured by smoke that curls like doubt made visible. History's lens sharpens here. The Wehrmacht's remnants, scattered by the Red Army's advance, form ephemeral enclaves like this, their bonds forged in necessity's crucible, a microcosm of survival's quiet art that echoes through conflicts where unity emerges from chaos's heart. The group prepares to depart, their movement slow, deliberate, as if each step weighs the cost of continuation. You glance back at the fountain, its dry basin a hollowed relic of better days, and ponder the irony. A city built to endure, now sustained by such fleeting gatherings, where strangers share bread and burdens under night's indifferent gaze. The thought lingers, a wry reflection on how empires crumble, but human connections persist, like weeds breaking through stone. A subtle salute to the resilience that history buries in its margins, urging appreciation for times where such bonds are forged in joy, not desperation. The night presses closer, its chill seeping through your tunic, and you step forward, the group's ragged silhouette merging with the shadows, a collective ghost drifting toward an uncertain dawn. The path beyond the courtyard twists into a warren of alleys, each turn a gamble with fate's unseen dice, and you move with care, the rifle a constant weight, its presence a reminder of roles unchosen, yet inescapable. The city's din grows distant, a muffled requiem, and you carry the memory of the courtyard's fleeting unity, a fragile spark that warms against the cold. In this quiet assembly of remnants, a deeper truth emerges. Survival's essence lies not in grand stands, but in these transient havens, where shared scraps and stories defy the void, a timeless whisper that honors the unquenchable drive to endure, linking shadowed nights to illuminated days where such trials are tales, not truths. The darkness beckons, and you follow, the remnants of your unit a testament to the spirit's unyielding march. The city exhales its last ragged sighs, and you wander alone through its ashen veins, a spectre unmoored from the unit that once tethered you to purpose, your steps muffled by the soft dust of Berlin's ruin. Night cloaks the streets in a velvet hush, broken only by the distant crackle of fires that smolder like fading embers of a world consumed. The air carries a weighty blend of charred stone and damp decay, each breath a reminder of a capital-turned mausoleum, its pulse stilled beneath the rubble's heavy shroud. Your rifle hangs loose at your side, its barrel cold as forgotten oaths, no longer a weapon, but a relic of a role you scarcely recognize, its weight a lingering echo of duties that have dissolved into the haze. The solitude wraps tight, yet in its embrace you find a strange clarity, as if the city's collapse has stripped away pretense, leaving only the raw pulse of existence, a quiet testament to survival's unyielding thread that weaves through history's darkest tapestries. You pause at a corner where a park once thrived, its outline barely discernible amid the wreckage. A twisted iron frame where swings once swayed, now dangling like broken promises in the wind's soft lament. Memory stirs, vivid and unbidden. Your daughter's laughter ringing here years ago. Her small hands clutching chains as she soared, fearless, under a sky unmarred by smoke. The contrast cuts deep, a blade of nostalgia that severs the present from the past, and you trace the frame's rust with a fingertip, the metal flaking like skin shed by time. A wry thought flickers. This park, once a stage for childhood's joy, now hosts only ghosts, its swings staging a silent play for an audience long fled. A mordant jest that softens the ache, reminding how places, like people, bear the scars of history's caprice, urging gratitude for eras where parks remain sanctuaries, not relics. The street stretches ahead, a ribbon of devastation winding through hollowed facades, their windows gaping like eyes blinded by despair. You tread softly, avoiding glass that glints under moonlight's pale caress, each shard a fragment of lives shattered. Teacups, mirrors, dreams, now littering the path like discarded prophecies. A faint breeze carries the scent of singed paper from a nearby ruin, perhaps a library's remains, its stories reduced to ash that drifts like snow, settling on your shoulders as if to whisper forgotten tales. The solitude amplifies every sound, the crunch of debris underfoot, the distant wail of a siren fading into silence, the soft drip of water from a broken pipe, each note a stanza in Berlin's elegy. In this desolation, history's weight presses close. In 1945, the city lies in its death throes, the Red Army's advance having claimed most districts, leaving wanderers like you to drift through the aftermath, embodying the quiet defiance that history honors in those who persist when all else crumbles. A shadowed alley beckons, its walls leaning inward like mourners at a funeral, and you slip through, the rifle's strap chafing your shoulder, a reminder of a soldier's mantle you no longer fully wear. The path narrows, forcing you to duck beneath a fallen beam, its wood charred to a brittle husk that crumbles at your touch, as if even the city's bones tire of standing. You emerge into a small square, where a fountain's basin lies cracked, its sculpted cherubs staring skyward with chipped, vacant gazes, as if pleading for a reprieve that never came. The sight evokes a fleeting irony. These stone angels, meant to guard eternity, now oversee only ruin, their silent vigil a mockery of permanence in a world undone. A thought that curls wryly in your mind, a nod to the absurd resilience that clings even as foundations falter, linking this moment to futures where such fragility is studied, not suffered. Your steps slow, the weight of solitude settling deeper, and you lean against a wall, its surface cool and unyielding, grounding you against the tide of memory. The farm calls again, golden fields, your wife's steady hands weaving bread, a hearth untouched by this inferno. And the image anchors you, a beacon in the ash-choked night. Yet the city's silence speaks louder, its stillness a canvas where past joys paint stark contrasts, urging a quiet reverence for realms where loss is a tale, not a lived wound. History's lens sharpens here. Berlin's inhabitants, those who remain, cower in cellars or flee through shadows, while soldiers like you, stripped of units, become ghosts in their own city, their wanderings a testament to the spirit's capacity to endure when purpose frays, a truth that resonates across ages, fostering appreciation for days unmarred by such aimless drifts. A faint glow catches your eye, a single candle flickering in a shattered window, its light a fragile defiance against the dark. You approach, drawn by its improbable persistence, and see a photograph propped beside it, half burned, showing a family frozen in happier times, their smiles a cruel mirror to your own buried hopes. The candle's wax drips like tears pooling on the sill, and you pause, struck by the futility. A flame lit for no one, burning in a city that no longer sees. Yet in its glow lies a deeper truth, the human need to mark existence, to defy oblivion with even the smallest gesture. A quiet salute to the resilience that history buries in its margins, urging gratitude for epochs where such acts are choices, not necessities. You turn away, the rifle a heavy companion, and continue. The night's embrace both heavy and freeing, guiding you through ashes toward an unseen dawn. The path twists onward, each step a solitary note in a requiem for a city unmade, and you carry the farm's image like a talisman, its light unwavering against the gloom. The silence deepens, broken only by the wind's soft moan through hollowed shells, and in this wandering, you embody the timeless struggle, a soul adrift yet unbroken, navigating ruin with quiet resolve. The ashes settle, the night endures, and you press on, a ghost among ghosts, sustained by the spark that history honors, the unquenchable drive to persist, linking shadowed trails to illuminated futures where such journeys are tales, not truths. You slip through the shattered frame of an apartment door, its hinges groaning like a final protest against intrusion, and step into a space hollowed by absence, where moonlight spills through a cracked window, painting the room in silvered grief. The air holds a faint scent of mildew and faded lives. Lavender soap, perhaps, or the ghost of a meal left unfinished. And you pause, the rifle slung across your back now a leaden relic, its purpose dimming like a candle burned to its wick's end. A civilian coat, worn but whole, drapes over a chair like an invitation to shed the soldier's skin, and you hesitate, fingers grazing its coarse fabric, the touch stirring a quiet tremor of release. The city outside hums its dying hymn, artillery's distant pulse a fading heartbeat, and in this moment you feel the weight of war loosen, as if Berlin's ruins grant permission to simply be a man, not a cog in a broken machine, a subtle shift that echoes through time, where letting go becomes survival's truest act. The room's stillness wraps you like a worn blanket, its silence a stark contrast to the chaos that drove you here, and you settle onto the floor, back against a wall that flakes plaster like autumn leaves. The coat remains untouched, yet its presence lingers, a silent question. Who are you without the uniform's burden? Your gaze drifts to the window, its jagged edges framing a sky bruised by smoke, where stars struggle to pierce the haze, faint as hopes half forgotten. Memory calls, unbidden, your wife kneading dough in the farm's warm kitchen, her hands steady as earth, your daughter's giggle weaving through the air like a melody untainted by ash. The image anchors you, a beacon in this sea of ruin, and a quiet gratitude stirs for worlds where such scenes endure, where war's shadow is a story told in twilight, not a wound carried in the chest. A soft creak breaks the hush, and an old woman appears in the doorway, her frame stooped under time's weight, eyes sharp yet weary, like stones polished by a relentless river. She holds out a piece of bread, its crust cracked but whole, and places it in your hand without a word, her silence louder than any sermon, a gesture that outshines the medals pinned to forgotten chests. You take it, fingers brushing hers, and the bread's rough texture grounds you, a tether to humanity's quiet defiance. As she retreats, vanishing into the shadows, you bite into the morsel, its stale bite a sacrament of sorts, and ponder the irony. In a city stripped bare, this small kindness weighs heavier than empires, a fleeting jest at war's grand promises that crumble while simple acts endure, a truth that resonates across ages, urging reverence for moments where compassion outlives chaos. The bread's taste lingers, faintly sour, and you lean back, the walls chill seeping through your tunic, a reminder of the world's indifference, yet also its persistence. Outside, Berlin's final hours unfold in slow collapse. The Red Army's advance tightens around the Reichstag, their victory a foregone conclusion as the city's defenders, scattered, exhausted, yield to inevitability. History will note the surrender days later, on May 2nd, but this night marks the true fracture, where purpose dissolves into survival's raw calculus, leaving wanderers like you to navigate the aftermath's silent currents. The old woman's gift, unasked and unadorned, mirrors the resilience of those who endure. Not in grand stands, but in quiet offerings, a narrative woven through conflicts where humanity's spark persists amid ruin, fostering appreciation for eras where such gestures are daily, not desperate. You rise slowly, joints aching like hinges rusted by time, and approach the window, its broken panes framing a city unmade, buildings reduced to skeletal husks, streets choked with the detritus of dreams. The rifle rests against the wall, untouched for now, its barrel a silent witness to battles fought and faded. You trace the coat's hem again, not donning it, but feeling its weight, a symbol of shedding the soldier's yoke, of stepping beyond the fray's relentless pull. The city's hum softens, artillery's roar now a distant murmur, as if granting a reprieve, and you sit once more, the bread's remnants clutched like a talisman. A wry thought surfaces. If war's a banquet, you're the guest who overstayed, left with crumbs while the hall burns. A mordant reflection that eases the heart's weight, highlighting the absurd tenacity that clings to life's edges, a spark that history buries yet never extinguishes. The room's shadows deepen, moonlight casting patterns that dance like memories across the floor, and you let your eyes close briefly, the farm's image blooming vivid, golden fields, a hearth's glow, a life unscarred by this inferno. The contrast stirs a quiet resolve, a recognition that survival's grace lies not in resistance's clamour, but in release's whisper, where letting go becomes an act of reclamation. History's lens sharpens here. Berlin's fall, sealed by the leader's absence, marks the end of an era, but in its ashes, individuals like you find meaning in small defiances, bread shared, memories held, steps taken toward an unseen dawn. This truth bridges epochs, honoring the unyielding spirit that transforms loss into renewal, urging gratitude for days where peace is a given, not a gift. The city's pulse fades, its requiem softening into silence, and you sit, no longer a soldier, but a man, the rifle a distant weight, the coat a possibility unclaimed. The old woman's bread, now gone, leaves a lingering warmth, a reminder that humanity endures in gestures uncelebrated, outlasting the grand narratives that crumble like stone. You gaze through the window, the sky clearing faintly, and feel the war's grip loosen, its demands dissolving into the night's embrace. In this quiet surrender, a deeper affirmation emerges, the capacity to find peace amid ruin, to carry forward the spark of home, a timeless whisper that celebrates the resilience woven through history's folds, guiding from shadowed nights to illuminated tomorrows, where such struggles are tales, not truth. As Berlin's ashes fade into the night's gentle embrace, you've wandered through a city's final sighs, a soldier unmoored yet unbroken, carrying the faint glow of home through ruined shadow. The gunfire softens, a distant lullaby, and the weight of duty slips like sand through open fingers. Let your shoulders ease, your breath slow, and sink into your bed's quiet harbour. Release the day's burdens. Let them drift like leaves on a silent stream. If your eyes linger open, share your thoughts below. Tell us where this tale found you. Tomorrow night, another story waits, whispering through history's folds to cradle your restless mind. For now, close your eyes, let the world dissolve, and drift into peace. Thank you, history buffs, for walking these shadowed paths. Sleep softly, dream deeply, until we meet again under starlit skies.